All right, today, um, Omar Nelson, Navy football class of 97, season 96. B backer. So not an L backer, a B
No,
backer.
no, I wasn't tough enough to be a linebacker. I tell you
Oh,
that right
come on, come on. That's
That was for
the,
guys like you.
we were best friends, right? Uh, Fullback, for those that don't know, from Bel Air, Maryland. Currently serving in business development for an architect and engineering firm called Bancroft.
And,
Um,
and, and actually, I'm going to. It's actually the official signature that we have for our company. Um, is from Secretary Bancroft when the Naval Academy was established. Our owner is an '85 grad, and he actually got the rights to the
nice.
official signature.
That's cool.
Paul Jenkins, I should say his name. Paul Jenkins is the CEO.
Very cool. Very cool. Every time I think of Bancroft, I think of the place where I can go get food um, whenever I need it uh, at weird hours of the day. So, um, but that kind of background and history to what you're doing now, definitely totally different level. Very awesome. Um, your background, as soon as you got out, as soon as you graduated, surface warfare officer, served in the Navy from 97 to 2004. Became in parallel with another job, color analyst for Navy football, 2002 through 2016. That's a lot of years.
A lot.
A lot of years. And probably a lot of fun.
Oh man,
Um,
it was great. I know I keep throwing you off on your intro, but I
that's
got to
okay.
see a lot of great players, man, and so grateful for that opportunity. And I'm sure we'll get into it, but it's a lot of great games, and got to see you in that Texas Bowl. That was one of the hallmarks right there. That was a big game. But I'll let you continue.
Yeah, ended it in our home state, my home state. Sorry. Um, so also in parallel to doing that, you transitioned out. You went into healthcare. It was a healthcare representative for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals from 2004 to 2017. Um, then served as the chief of staff for Navy football. Right.
That was a blessing, also. I mean, opportunity to be around the program a lot, and then one thing never took that for granted. I mean, to be around and we got great young men that come in the program, and just to be involved years doing the radio and in the years working on support staff. I mean, a lot of great memories.
Awesome. That just made me think of it was a good question, because as I do these episodes, you said we went through the radio, like how did that um, help you personally in a lot of different aspects that you didn't know? Because like as I do all these episodes, I'm like, all right, this has helped me speed up my growth in these areas as I do them, as I talk to people, perspective, how to say things, timing, tempo, and all that kind of stuff. Um, that happen to you when you were working through the radio and as you were covering events and stuff? Did you feel like that? Because I get that all the time, like for myself.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you get an opportunity to express yourself, but then you also meet so many people from different parts of the country and actually the world also, and then how to communicate with people, and then you want to be able to sometimes help you in over analyzing, over emphasizing things because you have an audience that's listening, so you want to try to captivate them. I mean, you're not on there just to talk about what you're seeing. You're also out there to entertain
Yeah.
and also keep people listening. Trust me, they know if people are listening. Now, if they're not listening, you're gonna get that tap on the shoulder and it says, "Hey, you got to go."
Hey,
but
people are
but but,
logging
but it
off.
also it helps you grow so much as a person. And we talk about um, the age now is about not as much communication and people interacting, but when you're in a job like that, I mean, your job is to verbally interact, and to verbally keep people's attention, and then you grow as a person.
Yeah.
And like I said, you look at my first year broadcasting, which was probably about to get the tap on the shoulder, to then therefore when I got to my later years, you just grow,
Yeah.
and
no
and
doubt.
it helps you so much. So it did get a lot from that.
Yeah, when I did my first, probably 15 episodes, I felt that tap on the shoulder a few times, but I got a few people that keep me in check. So that's a blessing. All right. So Chief of Staff, Navy football, a graduate of John F. Kennedy High School in Silver Spring, Maryland. And your biggest go-to hobby, barbecue enthusiast on that. Not only with that, networking, I think we'll touch on that, and strategic development.
Yep.
So we'll jump into some memories. I got 4 memories from 4 folks. The first one, episode 20 guest, Clint Bruce. Lots of memories of Omar. I remember one time during the summer off-season training, we were running, and Phil Emery had us on the ropes. It was freaking hot. We were about to line up and for another sprint, and Omar shouted, "We need some water." And Phil just turned and looked at him. Omar says, "My bad, coach. Must have been the heat. Let's put our hands down and run hard for Coach Emery."
I gotta fill in the blanks for that one. I
Do it.
mean, we've learned now through the years that the way that you condition and the way you got ready for athletics in general, there was not that much science behind that. Now there's a lot more science.
Yes.
And, it was one of those, you were looked at as not as being weak if you didn't get water. And, that was just that mentality,
Yeah.
the tougher, the
Remember the
harder we
Titans.
work,
Yep.
the more strain we put on the body, the better we're going to be. We realize now you got to hydrate. So
Gotta
it was hot
recover.
out there. And to tell you the truth, I was tired. And I was like, man, I'm not going to make my time. So I tried to get a little break. Said, Coach, we need some water. And then when he looked at me, anybody that played under Phil or conditioned under Phil, it just took that one look. And I was like, oh, man, how am I going to get out of this before I make the whole team run extra? So, quick apology and let's keep it moving.
It was a strategic pause. That's what that was. Awesome. He said when we were sophomores, we were beating Tulane in New Orleans. Our D coordinator was a legendary coach named Richard Bell. He was talking to the defense. It said something like, "Man, we got 30 minutes to win this game. I could eat dirt for 30 minutes." And I hear Omar on the other side of the locker room yell, "I want to play defense."
Been in the locker room and Richard Bell, I mean, great motivator. And you hit something like that, man. It just like, let's go get it, man. Let's get this dub, and I probably said it out loud, but knowing I couldn't get on that defensive side, but at least got the juice going.
Yeah, getting the juice going. Love it. Good Paul Johnson story with Omar. Air Force, our senior year. He said, I break up a pass, incredibly rare event, to stop their drive to go ahead. I go to the sideline and someone yells, Coach Johnson wants to tell me something on the sideline phone. I pick up the phone. Coach Johnson tells me I can put my helmet down because Omar is going to get 15 yards or 35 yards on the next snap, depending on whether or not he goes left or right on his cut, and then we're going to score. As I was turning around, Omar was busting out with a 30-plus yard run, beat him there on their homecoming. So,
I mean, Paul Johnson, when he was in as the offensive coordinator, you knew just the way that he put a game plan together. You just knew he was intelligent. He knew what he was talking about, and just being around coaches, you have coaches that are motivators, which you have to have, and then you have coaches that when they tell you something, it's probably going to happen. Like Paul Johnson, every Monday when you got ready for going through scout, going through how the defense is going to line up, he'd always say, well, I think they got an idea that they might line up like that. He was being a little coy with it, and then you get out there on Saturday and they would line up exactly how we practiced it the whole week. But before that play, he was one of those gotcha plays where he specifically said we're not going to block the linebacker, but with the action we've been showing him all game, he's just going to run out. So just cut. If you make the right cut, well, he said he was going to run out, so I didn't have to make the right cut. He told me, cut. If you cut it inside, he'd always say you have a chance. And then I remember Scott Zimmerman, who was one of our tackles. He did just a great job on the release. The whole line did a great job, and then it just opened up, and I just listened to what he said, and not drop the football, not fumble. So that was a big win for us.
Nice. And I'm kind of a quote guy. Like, I like that stuff. It is what it is. And you just said something that I wrote down is you got to have coaches that tell you something, ... that's probably going to happen. So that's a good takeaway for me. I like that. All right. Next memory guy, Jervia Loda, class right behind you guys. And he said class of 97 turned Navy football around. O was a big part of that. He was a leader in the locker room, respected by all. I was scared of him as a plebe because of his size, how he ran, how vocal he was, and how well he held people accountable. He was an emotional player that wore it on his sleeve. Bruising runner, was dependable, durable, single-handedly beat Air Force's senior year. He's probably still heartbroken about never beating Army. Continued to serve Navy football play-by-play, followed by recruiting. We all love O. So.
Jerry, first of all, Jerry was a tough guy, man. You talking about a safety, come up and fill the hole. Jerry, he was a thumper, no question about that. But and it's kind words, when you hear kind words like that from people you played with, you just listen, and you just be thankful that they have fond memories of you, and I'll leave it like that. But great guys played with, and we all know that. People that listen to your podcast, people that have been around the program. I've always said one of the words within Navy football that if someone says, "Oh, he's a good dude," that's all you got to say. If people just say he's a good dude, everybody knows what that means. You don't even have to go on and say anything else. So Jerry was a good dude. Clint was a good dude. Guys that I was fortunate enough to play ball with.
Yeah, I came across that one and actually getting Jervy on because one of my closest friends, Matt Nishek, served with him, and he was like, this guy's my CO. This guy's electric. Like, you got to get him on. And that's kind of how I navigate who I get on here. And Mahoney was a guy I was like, dude, you got to get Omar on here. That's just how those cards fell into play. It's fun to see how especially amongst this group, where you came from, what you did back then, what you're doing today. Just another fun tie in there. So, all right, Ben Fay. So, episode 46 guests. Much of the last 2 decades, Omar's well been known for covering Navy football on radio and TV. He was gifted with solid options, was never shy to express or share his thoughts about, Naval Academy or in the booth, at the Naval Academy or in the booth. But at Navy, Omar was a very good football player and leader for us. The game that stands out to me where Big O impacted, Big O, there's your nickname, impacted our result was Air Force, our senior year. His 50-something yard run with less than 2 minutes left in the game set up the game's chip shot winning kick from Tom Vanderhorst. Omar would have scored to win, but either the altitude or lack of oxygen kind of caught up with him. And I did.
That's why I was the one saying we need water when Clint Bruce gave his comments earlier. But about that play, Ben Fay was the first person. I got up and I won't say celebrated you, but you make a big play, you get amped up. But if Ben probably would have kept the ball, he probably would have scored. He beat me down the field. I mean, he was excited also.
That elevation is no joke. It is no joke for sure, especially coming straight from sea level. Oh man. Okay. Let's see. He said, or after the whole altitude or lack of oxygen, or he would probably say, since he's quite the analyst, he was ensuring Air Force didn't have any time left on the clock to score following our assumed winning kick. Omar was a great teammate and a big, big reason as to why we were successful in the 1996 9-3 season. So, last one, David Mahoney. So Dave was a senior when I was a freshman during the Navy football days, and Dave was one of those rare occasions in Navy football. I don't want to say rare because there were quite a few, but when I say rare, ones that started as a freshman, but like played as a freshman, really good. He was one of those guys. Hope to get him on here one day. That you are a hard and dedicated worker, one of the best people I know. That's what he said. He has a great personality, sense of humor. He said to ask you about your slabaceous barbecue. Did I say that right?
Oh,
Slabgracious.
Slabulous. That's my barbecue
Slabulous.
team. That's what Dave was mentioning. But Dave, I remember Dave his freshman year coming in because I was broadcasting at that time, and he actually wore 88 his freshman year, and we were at a
Nice.
practice and he was playing linebackers, one of those early fall practices, and I just remember him hitting everything. I mean, just kind of walked around. I walked over to one of the defensive coaches, and I was like, "Who is that 88 who's just hitting everything? I mean, just running to the ball." And he was like, "Oh, that's Dave Mahoney. You'll see him this year, no question about that." And then, I mean, he played a lot. I mean, I remember coming off the edge. And the one thing about Dave is he was a smart football player. You're not
Yeah.
gonna, people talk about the things he did and the plays, but when you talk about technically sound, always striking with the right hand, keeping leverage, setting the edge, because he came in as an inside. And then
Yeah.
he moved outside. Well, he was playing inside a little bit. That when he first came in, moved to outside and just a smart football player. Really knew the game and we didn't take
Instincts,
false steps.
intuition.
And
Yeah.
yeah, all that. And then when had the opportunity, when I was still working in support staff and had the opportunity to bring Dave in and work with him. And man, we just a great man, and you know just had some great times. I mean, Dave is he was always one of my favorites, even when he played. Just watching him play and then getting to know him.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good. I think he's a good example in what you were just talking about. Of, it's not the position that you're recruited in to fill. Quarterbacks at Navy all the time, like they get moved wherever. A lot of them to A-backs. Some to defense, but the ability to have that bird's eye view, come in, I play this position, be able to pivot and still see the bird's eye view in a different position is very valuable. For sure. He said, you're a great, baller at B-back. Said it was because of you and your faith in him that he became the recruiting coordinator for Navy. I ran into him at
Yep,
a Navy
did a great job.
Media Day, and he pitched me the role and talked to me a little bit about it and was able to, kind of get that foot in the door. So he appreciated that.
Mhm.
Working for him and with him has been the best job I've ever had. His knowledge of Navy football history from the late 90s to present may be unmatched. Um, ask him when you start playing Christmas music, right? Christmas music? What's that? And then after that, he
Well,
said, he'll get a laugh out of that.
yeah, because we'd be in the office and I would start Christmas music November 1st, just start playing it. And you can't start that till after Thanksgiving. I'm like, but I like Christmas music and I don't listen to it that much. So I'm just going to start it November 1st. And
I'm just going
of
to
course
open
he
up
would
the
act like,
window.
yeah, let's just let it roll. And he enjoyed it though, but funny he brought that up. I think he texts me every year, Thanksgiving, and says you can officially start playing Christmas music. And I said, man, I've already been playing it 25 days, man.
Nice. Good stuff. Lastly, he's a very loyal person. So, um, yeah, that's it of the, flashback piece of it. And I get to ask you, what's your story? I'm really interested in, tell you up front, the transition learnings that you had, and then more into just the whole chief of staff role and how that was and how cool it was,
Oh
so.
yeah. Well, I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland, and not to get too in depth, but probably like the majority of your guests, um, you start to get recruited at the academy, and then you realize, the history and the opportunities, and then you get humbled to say, this institution, what it stands for, and what it is, and the contributions to our country that the institution has made, and you make that leap of faith, and then also you love to play ball, and
Yep.
opportunity to continue to play ball, and that's the cherry on top. But you want to be good at ball also. I mean, you don't want to go there and not be successful. And I think, and I've seen it through the years, being around the program for the amount of years I was around the program, you're around a lot of people that are kind of very, very similar to you. Not the exact same, but similar. I mean, you don't
Mindset. Yeah.
mindset and you know, good people, as I said earlier, good dudes, and and you, you get that opportunity. So that's what got me to the academy. Did go to the prep school first. So a year up at Rhode Island.
Yep.
Um, and then went down to Annapolis, and then after graduation, um, I grew up on the East Coast, and this is honest. I said, okay, I'm going to go, surface, and I said I need to go out to California. I mean, all this
Nice.
music that was coming out there, the NWA, the Tupac, the Snoop.
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta go out to the West Coast. I gotta see what it's like out there. And
Awesome.
and um served on two ships out of 32nd Street in San Diego. Two deployments. Get, you take it for granted sometimes, but then when you go back and you look and you talk think about what you got to see, you know, going around the world, and then you might hear some things on news, but now you get so much stuff through your phone, social media wise, and you pretty much have a good opinion on events around the world because you've been in the area.
Yeah. Share
You've
mile.
been over there, so that very, very beneficial as far as the growth, as you talked about earlier, the growth as a person.
Yeah.
My last tour, came back and started working in the seamanship and navigation department at the academy, or professional development department. It was kind of, you talk about how things work out. Played for Paul Johnson when he was the O coordinator for 2 years, and then he had just been brought back to be the head coach. And and Navy got a deal with HD Net. Really aging myself now. HD Net. Now everyone has HD TVs now, but nobody had HD TVs at that point. The technology was starting to come out. So HD Net, the Navy had a contract where they would broadcast home football games. And Paul and I had a pretty good relationship. At least I think so. Don't put him on your podcast and he'll say, no, I couldn't stand Omar.
Yeah, I would
but
love to get him on here.
we had a good relationship. And he was like, listen, you know the offense. And Paul didn't want anybody talking negatively about his offense that didn't understand it, because a lot of stuff
Yeah,
is reads. And then, people say, well, why they always running the ball inside? Why they always running the dive? And I would know that it was the read that, the defense was giving them, why are they
yeah,
running it to the short side? Why don't they just always run it to the wide side? Well, it's a numbers game. You're looking at the numbers, running to where you had advantage of the numbers. So he pitched the idea, and Chet Gladchuck, who was the AD, and I don't know all the inner workers, but they took a chance on giving me the opportunity. So I broadcasted the home games that year on HD Net. Pete Medhurst, who's now play-by-play for Navy Radio, he was my broadcast partner. We were
nice.
broadcasting together, and then from that year, got the opportunity to then go full time with radio. And Bob Sosi was my partner for I think the first 10 years. And now Bob's, broadcasting with the Patriots. And Bob has a Super Bowl ring, multiple Super Bowl rings. Pete has a World Series ring. So you can see they carried me through the broadcast, which was good.
That's
Two
awesome.
great professionals. And at that point, I did transition out of the service. Still wanted to continue to do radio. Um, so you go to the hiring conferences, you kind of get an idea of where your skill set can
What?
fit
Why
in.
did you want to transition? Was there a reason, or just kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of over this, or like, what made you want to get out and move on?
You podcasters, y'all get those real questions. You weren't gonna let me go past that. You was gonna narrow it
Well,
down with,
that was one of
with
my things was transition. So,
transition.
but you're already talking about being surrounded by some folks that you're like, oh, this is pretty cool to be doing
Yeah,
these things with these people, and I'm really curious about it. So that's my suspicion. That's what I want to ask.
I I I never thought about having a career in the service. I wanted to serve. Do not get me wrong, and I enjoyed myself while I was serving. And on every command, I wanted to lead the command where it was, Omar brought value, to the command. So it wasn't
Yeah,
one of those, I'm just going to do my time and get out. It was one of those, no, you want to work hard, you want to do well,
yeah, understood.
and you don't put yourself in a position to where if you decide to stay in, you get the other answer, no, we don't want you in anymore. We want you to get out.
Yeah,
So I think um, I wanted to transition out because I was starting a family, had a son at the time. Well, I still have a son, don't get me wrong, but he was and wanted to kind of be involved as much as possible, that I could be. And I did also want to try other things. I mean, and not that I did everything the Navy had to offer, but I knew I wanted to try other things in other avenues. But that's just a decision I made. And when you answer a question like that, it doesn't have to be, something negative about what you're leaving. It's just kind of wanting to then try and do other things and the journey in starting another path. Which
sure.
don't get me wrong, it's some anxiety when you make that decision, but it's one that I never regret.
Cool. Like it. Good stuff. I think that, going through all these episodes, that's one of my common questions because I like to hear the perspective on it. And very similar with, you know, not that where I was at was a bad thing, but like, I'm looking for something different, right?
Yeah,
So good stuff. All right. So transition happened.
transition happened, and working with Pfizer Pharmaceuticals as a healthcare representative, and then broadcasting games, um, Navy football. I mean, just I think it's probably about trying to time frame about 13 seasons of doing that, and then had a great relationship with uh, Ken Niumatalolo. It's kind of funny saying Paul Johnson and Ken Niumatalolo. It's only Coach Johnson or Coach Niumat.
Well, I
Um,
got 2 years of both. So
yeah, yep, exactly. And then he gave me the opportunity to come work on his support staff, and it was another one of those transitions. Do you want to kind of transition? But it was something that I decided to do, and I had some great seasons working under Ken. Um, Still keep in contact with him. Um, he's doing well, and
awesome. It's good to hear.
enjoy
I know
that.
that whole shakeup over there, like, really happy for him.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. And then after we had changes in the staff after the 2003 season, we talked so much about the network, brotherhood, and started networking with members of the brotherhood, and then um, got in touch with Paul Jenkins, who's now the CEO of the company I work for, Bancroft Architects and Engineers, and we had some conversations and asked, um, what I was interested in, and I talked to him about that, and then he had some ideas how I could come into the company working in his business development team, and I've been with them um, getting since last June, and it's been great. I mean, full service construction led architect and engineering company. Um, Done a lot of work in healthcare space, whether it's hospitals, clinics, do long-term care facilities. We do the design, and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. So I'm very
Awesome.
thankful um, to Paul about where I am right now.
Cool. Um, can we rewind to Pfizer? And I'm not going
Yep.
to get crazy. Uh, but, big pharma, going into it and then coming out of it, any before and after type of perspective changes there?
Um, when you say perspective changes, you mean how me as an individual or the
Yeah, as an
industry?
individual. So, like, you're transitioning out of the Navy, you go into Pfizer, thinking like, all right, this is going to be like this. And by the time you get out, any like realizations or any anything that came out of that?
Well,
Obviously, there's some
I
growth
would say,
there, but
yeah, you just go about the growth aspect. I mean, you know you have to be very technically sound in the products that you are um, presenting to healthcare providers. It's but then it's a lot of the skills as far as to communicate because you're dealing with a lot of different customers.
yeah.
Um,
Hey, well, that
Different,
whole radio thing probably helped you out with
yeah, just
that.
kind of going full circle and be able to communicate, and then being able to position yourself to where it's someone that people are open to, wanting to get information from, wanting to um, show how you can bring value to the way they are practicing medicine, and and I really like that a lot. I mean, like I said, it wasn't one of those things to where I didn't like um, providing the service, bring value to the providers. But when you got an opportunity to go work for Kidney and Matalolo. It's one of those things you can't turn that down. I mean, you had a chance to play for him for 2 years. Probably a little different because, player, coach, and things like that. But then I got a chance to kind of really get closer to him through the years while I was around the program. So
Yeah,
um,
no
it
doubt.
was just, so to answer your question, I mean, the industry I thought is very beneficial and providing information to the providers so they can take care of their patients the best they possibly can.
Gotcha. Um, okay, enough of that. Um, the chief of staff role for Navy football. How cool is that? What were some of the cool, or like, two or three, one or two things that popped out? Like that was an awesome experience, or that was what it's all about, or that was totally worth it. That I think there's a lot of guys, that probably listen to this that are like, man, that's a good role to be in, right? Um, what were your favorites?
Oh, I would say during the time in that role when I was um, working in the support staff, I would say, and I mean, you get a lot of football players that watch this podcast. I would say probably one of the highest was when we beat Kansas State in the Liberty Bowl. I mean, you look back at that. I mean, the 4 teams that were in the college football playoff. Um, you might have to edit this because I might take me time to remember, but it was like Clemson, I think, um, Oklahoma, Ohio State, and I think the fourth might have been. I'm gonna say Alabama just because you always throw Alabama out there because they were there in it so much. But all the teams that went there, only one team had a loss, and that was Oklahoma when they lost to Kansas State. And then that year we beat Kansas State in in the Liberty Bowl. I mean,
Yeah,
that was big time. I mean, so that was one of the highs. And I say that first because, I mean, winning football games is important. I've always said that. When you're working and when you're playing, when you're working in the profession,
yeah.
you can't run away from it. I mean, is it a shallow answer? Some people could say yes, but it is important. I mean,
Well,
winning games.
the backstory to that, not knowing all the details, is already like, okay, you're going into the game, Kansas State. Hey guys, Kansas State beat this team, this team, this team, this team. Let's go. Let's see what we can do. You
Let's
go
hit it.
into it, you win it, and you're like, boom.
Man, that was big time. So, and then I'd say a lot of the fond memories after that is getting to work with a Dave Mahoney. Dave was 10 years after I graduated around that, and then Brian Blick, who was operations, um, he was 15 years
Yeah.
after
Played
I
with Brian.
graduated.
Yep.
Yep. So I was the old man, but we had so many we had we would talk just a lot about times when we played, and I got an opportunity to broadcast the games when they played. So and then to get closer with them, and that was enjoyable. Also got to work with Rob Green. Um, Most people know him as RB Green.
Yep.
Um, and
I
we went to
actually,
Naps together.
first time I didn't really interact with him, but I saw him was in Afghanistan.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and he was coaching. He was part of the coaching staff. So I went to Naps with. I mean, he's the godfather to to my son, and then I'm the godfather to his twin boys. And then
Nice.
we've been so tight in the work with him. Another great aspect is of course getting to know the young men that are brought in to the program, but then meeting their families. Um, I got a chance to meet a lot of the families when I was broadcasting because the Friday nights before the game, we kind of all end up in the same places. So you get to meet the families, the ones that travel a lot. Um, and then on the aspect of being support staff when you're going through the recruiting process. And then, they come to the practices, they come to the games and to meet the families, and still in touch with some of them that are still in the program while I was still there. So that was another high point also.
Awesome.
And I could go on, but when I think about it, that's what first pops into my mind.
When you were working in that role, was there any kind of key mentor you had, or someone you had to bounce ideas off of throughout that process?
When I first got into the role, you well, a lot of it is the direction of the head coach. That's the first thing. I
Yeah,
mean,
so
so when you
chief
get
of
a
staff is
direction,
like right hand
well,
man,
yeah,
for a lot of things.
because the first years I was player personnel, and then Kenny um, elevated me and created the chief of staff position my latter years. But when first getting in player personnel, I mean, you're reaching out to other schools, sharing ideas as far as recruiting players. Preston Pearson, who Coach Pearson, you played under Coach Pearson
Yes,
when he was there. He
like to get
was
him on
there,
here
and
too.
I was learning. Huh?
I'd like to get him on here too.
Yep. We learned a lot from Preston, his son, because he had been there and he had worked recruiting at other places. So learning, the, the, how to really navigate, and he taught me a lot. And then from there, reaching out to other schools, making sure, bouncing off ideas, because people don't mind sharing ideas when you reach out to them, and then they have conferences and things like that. But if I would say a specific mentor, as far as really reaching out to, Bryce McDonald, who left to go be the chief of staff for UCLA, and he's still there. And he was working in operations a lot before he went to UCLA. He actually coached for 1 year.
Yeah,
We reach out to him a lot also, more tactically about because operations and recruiting work hand in hand. But then, because I didn't have to, I mean, because the academy, since I had been around there so long, you know a lot about the academy.
yeah,
But then that aspect, you still deal with talking with battalion officers, talking with, commandant. You don't talk with the superintendent that much. I can sit here and say that, but you don't talk to the superintendent that much. But but you still have to have that interaction. Um, and so I kind of knew how to navigate that. But as far as finding players, present them to the coaches, coming up with a schedule, Preston really taught me a lot about that.
awesome. Well, cool. How about and that was specific to that topic. How about in life in general? Got a favorite mentor?
Whew. Um, well, I'll first start off with my father. I mean, he's he's in his mid 80s now, and he's always someone I could call and I could talk to and give advice. It's kind of I see that now because my son, he's 20 and my daughter's 18, and you get I've realized in my relationship with my dad, but then now with my children, you kind of start to shift into the giving advice phase instead of the parenting. Not to say you're always parenting, but presenting advice to where it could be accepted and taken to kind of get them to where they want to be, not necessarily where I want them to be, but kind of help them develop. Um, but then when you go back, and I think I'm trying to tie this in to your question as far as what I got from working in support staff, then you're also dealing with a lot of young men, and I just say men just the fact that those are the members on the team, but I should take that back because there was a lot of female midshipmen that worked part of the staff also. So I take that back. I mean, you're just dealing with young people in general to where they might come to you for advice about, how it is in the when you graduate, and you kind of want to shape that and give them advice also. So
Yeah.
as a person, for me in my development, sometimes when you're in a role to where you're giving a lot of advice, or people are coming to you with advice, and you think that what you're telling them is impacting them, but it actually is impacting you just as much, if not more, because
Yeah.
it really makes you think and give solid
Wait, was
perspective,
that
and you're
the right
developing.
thing? Yeah.
Yep.
Like, did I say
Exactly.
what? Was I level headed that day?
Yep. Yep. Exactly. And,
Awesome.
and it helps in your growth also.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as, because everybody's different. How you approach each person, and what you said is a good point. What are they going through that day?
Yeah.
Um, and I think, and it's dealing with the coaches also. I mean, as far as what needs to be done, and we have to continue to work towards this, or how we want to help develop. And in that job, I mean, dealing with the strength staff, you're dealing with medical, you're dealing with academic advisors. So all that just helps as far as um, your growth, because you kind of switch gears every now and then. It's not just my way. It's how can we develop this young person to be the best they can be.
Yeah, definitely a lot of dotted lines in that role, like a spider web of them.
Mm.
When it comes to having to coordinate and talk to and communicate, for sure. So, um, how about like in your entire career, was there a biggest moment or a biggest, um, memorable thing where when you walked away from that thing, it was like, man, either that was good or I learned a big lesson or, you know, today's a good day.
I think the biggest transition that I had is, and I think you're relating to, a lot of people that listen to your podcast can relate, especially coming from um, the academy where we were, and playing football, where that took a lot of your time. We know that. I mean, and I could go on and on and on, but people that listen to your show, they understand how much time you put into um, being as good as you can be on the field. But then when you graduate, and then you get to your first command, and are you going to get there and say, I want to excel at this aspect of my journey as much as I tried to excel when I was back at the academy playing ball? And I took it upon myself to say, I want to, excel in this aspect, as far as being the best surface warfare officer I can be, you know, taking that challenge of, I'm not going to um, um, not put in the effort. I want to be able, to take pride of giving the captain of the ship a contact report to where they can go back to sleep and say, hey, Omar's got it. I can go back
Yeah.
to sleep, instead of every time I pick up the phone to call them, have them run into the bridge to make sure that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was something that was a challenge. And not that it's something that a lot of people have not done before me, but you have to get that mindset that you want to excel in that aspect. And then from there, when you get to your next career transition, you've done it before and been successful. So then when I go to, pharmaceutical sales, it's about, yes, I can excel at this. So when you get to broadcasting, I can excel at this because you've built up, it's that DNA in your mind, that mindset. Now in the
Yeah.
current position now, I am in business development with architect and engineering company, I can excel in this aspect because you've done it before. I know I can do it again. You just want to put in the work.
Awesome. It's a little bit of that grow where you're
Oh,
planted.
and lastly, because you said, I told you I love the barbecue. Can I make the best barbecue? at the competitions that I go to. Can I excel at that also? So it all ties in together.
Nice. It's a little bit of that grow where you're planted, but at the end of the day, like I'm going to be the best at what I can do with what I got right now. Let's go. Right.
Mhm.
So as you were saying that, I was like, yes, yes, yes. And that's what I was thinking. Um, Networking. So you're a big networker. I say you're a big networker. Like that's something that was either a key takeaway or was there a cool networking thing that happened to you or an event? Or was it just kind of like an accumulation of, over time is like, wow, this whole, you know, networking thing it's starting to be good. Or was it always kind of like that?
No, it wasn't always like that, and that's why I kind of um, want to bring it up is I'm continuing to try to grow in networking. I'm not where I need to be, but I think I was not told or it wasn't emphasized or I probably didn't pay attention when I was younger the importance of networking and and um, positioning yourself and talking to people and using um, where we come from to help you get to where you want to be professionally. I mean, I'm working at it every day because as um, a friend of mine told me, you don't start networking when you need your network. Constantly, developing it so then it's there all the time. And that's why when you reached out to me, I was grateful. And I don't know how many people you have to reach out to, and I don't know how many times you
I
might be
reach out to
told,
pretty much all of them.
yeah, yeah. And if some people say no, that's not what I do, or I I don't want to do it. I think it's important, to network and getting to know you even better. I mean, I knew you probably more than you knew me, just for the fact that I covered the games when you played, but I just think now through this podcast, I mean, even though we're networking right now. I mean, I feel comfortable now to where I could probably text you. I got your number now. I can text you or call you, and you'll be like, "Oh yeah, I know Omar. Yeah." Someone asked you about me, you could be like, "Oh yeah, I know Omar." And I just think it's important we continue to do that, continue to grow, and continue to help each other out when we have the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. I recently had someone that I used to work with that reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, here's this role. I don't think I'm qualified." I was like, "Man, we miss 100% of the shots we don't take." Right? Old MJ quote. Um, just try it. Same thing with networking, right? Just try it.
Yeah, yeah.
100% sham wow. Um, you got any? So you've been inside the Navy football game for quite a while, uh, more than probably most of us. Um, any advice for the current men going through that program right now, based off of all your experiences, covering the games, being in the program, playing, to being the chief of staff? Like, what would you tell those guys?
And
Now, I'm
that,
putting you on the spot, but
no, no, it's it's a question because I don't like to just throw answers out. I like to really, give something that could be beneficial or helpful for them.
yeah, I understand
And
that.
it's easy to
Sometimes I
say just
get stuff thrown at me, and I'm like, I said something, I was like, yeah, that was stupid. I should give it like a little bit of thought. But
I think that there's a couple aspects as far as to be successful. Um, and I'm using successful as far as winning games in that aspect. Um, I think one thing is when we were talking about Dave Mahoney earlier, how tactically sound he was when he played. When you're in the meetings with the coaches, and sometimes you know how it is in meetings. I mean, you're squeezing them in. You're trying to. You only have 24 hours in the day, so your meeting times. You're trying to stay focused and getting that little edge. Um, Also, I think, and I did this while I was there. Also, Um, I'm trusting the process. For a lot of the guys that aren't on the field yet, I think it's the difference now is how um, you could always leave, but now it's so much easier now with the landscape of college football. But
Yeah.
but um but understanding um the grass is not always greener.
ShamWow.
Um if you but to make sure you have good perspective on how you can continue to develop, and even though if you're not getting um the time you want as, let's say, a freshman or as a sophomore, you can continue. You can also contribute a lot on getting those wins, and it's much more exciting and much more enjoyable when you are getting those wins.
Yeah.
And and that's a lot of advice. And I used to always, I should say always, but I would tell a lot of young people. I said you got a lot of people at home that love you and respect you, and they wouldn't have you at the academy, um, not giving and not wanting you to give the best effort you have, not just on the field, but also, in all the other aspects there also,
Yeah.
that the school has to offer. I know this is a lot of Naval Academy focused type of podcast, a lot of your viewers, but I think that type of advice, as far as that I try to present, give how the team could be better, could be applied to any team.
Yeah, for sure. As you're talking through that, I'm thinking about NIL. I'm
Yeah.
thinking about college football, coaches jumping to the pros. Thinking about college, Coach Saban leaving the game, and thinking, games changed a little bit as a coach because of what the program that I stand for is growth and development. And one of the reasons why he's leaving is, all these kids, they see these short wins. They see these, this money being flashed or whatever. And me, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, Navy doesn't have it, doesn't have the whole NIL rule, so they're not getting paid, whatever. That keeps the team together. That's good for them. But at the same time, um, I think what you're talking about is very core to what, this whole thing stands for, and life should stand for, um, is the growth and development, those
And
long-term
yeah,
sacrifices. Yeah.
and I think the exposure to it. I mean, like I said, like when I worked in office, and it was, Dave was 10 years behind me, and Brian Blick was 15 years behind me, but when we were all in the room, it was all like it was all like we were on the same team, the same stories. And
Yeah,
then
there's the
me
goal.
sitting here, yeah, me sitting here talking with you. I mean, I know the mindset is very similar. Now, I don't know how that is in other programs, so I can't talk specific to that. But I do know it's like that in the Navy football program. I
Yeah.
know that for sure.
I'm being theoretical. I don't know either. I'm just trying to sound cool. So, uh, but either way, I do think there is something there. The goal, though, is in that long-term growth and, you know, fighting that fight every day, because you're going to see the reward at some point. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, yeah,
Keep the faith,
yeah.
and it all works out for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Two more questions. I always ask this one, second to last, and what's your biggest struggle that you're working through today? Because someone else might be working through it too.
Um, well, I think this, and I don't want to. I mean, we'll use the word struggle, but
Opportunity.
opportunity, yeah, opportunity in that aspect. I mean, the opportunity to really take time and make sure to continue to focus on enjoying the journey of life. I mean, you have to do that because there's always going to be
Yes.
obstacles that come in the way, and they're going to be unique to whatever that specific time is. But always keep the mindset to enjoying the journey.
I like that.
And I picked this seat strategically, so you see the picture of me and my wife on one side and the other,
I see
and
it.
continue to make my wife and my family, enjoy the journey also. I mean, my children being older, and not seeing them as much. I'm making sure that we're continually in keeping that in perspective.
Awesome.
That's not a struggle, but that is kind of one of the opportunities and the challenges that you got kind of really continue to work with.
I gotcha. Same boat. I know a lot of folks on here have kind of mentioned that as well. So it's a good one. Join the journey of life. Last one. What's your price of admission?
Give me a little more context when you say that. When you say price of admission, I want to really focus in on when you say that. Like
Well, when I started
what you
this,
mean
it
by
was
price of
like,
admission.
when I started it, it was like something like super painful that made it worth it. The sacrifice, the suffering, all those kinds of things. But now I just keep it open ended. Like, hey, what is the price of admission to you? So it can mean anything, but it has to mean it to you.
I think
Price of
having an open
admission
mind,
to having an open mind.
having an open mind, because there's so many things in the way that information is spread today, and it's going to continue to get faster and faster and faster. I mean, it's
Oh
not slowing
gosh.
down. Trust me, you know that.
Yep.
I mean, it's
AI.
it's it's
Yep.
it's it's continuing developing and developing. And I think when you say the price to admission, is it to, and just if it's to any group that you want to be involved in, if it's any activity you want to be involved in, any event you want to go to, and I'm thinking when you say price of admission, the price of admission to be in that space. You got to have open mind. You don't have a closed mind, because therefore, if you get into that space, it is not what you just thought it was. You might be disappointed, or it could go the opposite way. Didn't get extra excited, but you got to have that open mind, pivot
Yep.
and adjust.
Love it. Good stuff. Well, what's your wife's name?
I think you froze up a little bit. I
How about now?
got you now.
Gotcha. Okay. What's your wife's name?
Kelly Nelson. Kelly with an I.
Tell Kelly thank you for your time tonight. And at least your 18-year-old. Really appreciate you. This is good. A good episode for me. I'm hoping, and I guarantee it will be for a lot of other folks.
All right, man. I appreciate what you're doing, man. I mean, do you normally get to this probably won't be on the recording, whatever, but what has been, I mean, what are the years and spans you've had